Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here on Vancouver Island in Western Canada. I hope that all of you have had a great week. I hope you're looking forward to a fantastic weekend. Welcome to our members, Fwang, Joao, Chayani. Nice to see many of you here. Welcome to our moderator, Carolina. Good to have you with us, making sure that these classes go smoothly. This class right now is a members chat class. Of course, everybody is welcome to watch. After this class, we have an IELTS Task 2 writing class, and that will be a subscribers class. So you can either choose to become a member if you'd like by clicking the join button next to the subscribe button, or subscribe to join the chat in the next class. In this class, we are looking at IELTS Task 1 writing about recycling, a very popular topic during our modern era. Of course, we are doing what we can to minimize pollution and to save the planet. And one way to do that is by recycling, meaning that we send our plastic, metal, paper off to be reused in future products. Now, task 1 of the academic IELTS exam is a graph in most cases. It's either a pie chart, a line graph, a bar graph. Sometimes you have a table, sometimes you have a flow chart or a diagram or a map even. It's different than general IELTS. General IELTS, you have to write a letter. So for academic, it's a graph. It's very different. It's a different style of essay. This essay is called an expository essay. Your goal is to explain or expose the information to your reader. The general IELTS is called a narrative essay. You write a story. Basically, when you're responding to a letter, writing to a manager, writing to a friend, you write a mini story, a real story. Or a made-up story, but it's a story. So different styles of essays. Make sure you know which version of the exam you need to sit. Make sure you study for that version. If you're studying for the academic task 1, you're definitely in the right place now. And make sure to study all the different types of graphs, okay? A lot of people, and I should make this note here, the most common mistake that I see in academic IELTS Task 1, and I'll actually put that at the top here, just a quick learning point to start us off. The most common mistake candidates make in academic Task 1 writing is they write about pie charts, bar graphs, tables, as if they were looking at a line graph, which is wrong. Okay, line graphs show continuity. Those other types of graphs usually don't show continuity. So it's a big mistake. You have to be very careful. You have to understand the difference between writing for a pie chart, writing for a table, a bar graph, a line graph. It's not the same. Different kinds of graphs are used to represent different types of information, and it's very important that you clearly understand that. The reason academic IELTS is testing for that is because that information is taught to students, usually in math class, in the US, UK, Australia, Canada, during middle school and high school. So most Canadians, Americans, British, by the time they get to college or university, they have a fairly clear understanding of the difference between these graphs, and they want international students to understand the same. Otherwise, they're going to have some troubles in many classes, engineering, psychology, computer science. So in many fields, you use these graphs, and it's important that you understand how to use them before you start those classes, okay? Yeah, I see that it just froze. Can you hear me okay, or is everything frozen? Okay. So the audio is frozen, but everything else seems clear. All right, let me just quickly fix that. I think I can do that very fast. So just give me one moment, and then we'll get the camera back online here. Should be okay. All right, there we go. Hopefully that fixes it. All right, well, if it's just the video, it's not the end of the world. Most important is that you're hearing me. Was the screen frozen too, though? It seemed like it probably was. So, all right. Yeah, the internet is a complex beast, so sometimes things happen. It's totally fine. Okay, Joao says the screen was not. All right, it wasn't on my end, which is kind of strange. Anyhow, we're back in business, so all is good. All right, most importantly here, to sum up what I was saying and just reiterate real quickly, you have to understand the difference between the applications of line graphs, bar graphs, pie charts. It's known knowledge by the time students get to university in many English-speaking countries. So that's the idea here. And so today we're focusing on line graph and the function of a line graph, and I will walk you through a sample question with a Band 9 response. Now again, to learn about all of the different reasons and ways to use these graphs and to learn the vocabulary, you can do that on our website, aehelp.com. So for those of you who have it, make sure to check out the Task 1 writing section in the course, okay? And make sure to check out those videos. Some of those videos are a little bit older, but they're great, so check it out. For general IELTS students, to learn about narrative writing for general IELTS and how to write a good email response, a letter to a boss or a friend, check out gieltshelp.com. That's for the general IELTS. The websites, they look like this. This is the academic IELTS here. This is the support for our live class materials, basically our textbooks and our course content. So check this out. Click on that big red button that's just above my head there when you have a moment to join our premium IELTS package. We're an IDP affiliate. We're a British Council partner. You can register for your IELTS exam in several countries through the website. I'm a certified British Council agent, so you're in fantastic hands with us. When you join, we always give kind of discount codes in these live classes, so use the discount code CLUB9 for a 10% discount. Okay, that will make it even a little bit more accessible. It's not a lot of money, it's cheap, and it's a one-time payment for lifetime access. So it's really well worth it, especially when you join these live classes regularly.
Welcome to Academic
You'll see
IELTS.
lots of videos with me. On the websites for the general IELTS, it's gieltshelp.com, and you can click this big red button there again on the general IELTS. So general IELTS green, academic IELTS blue. Check that out. And our apps, Academic IELTS Help and General IELTS Help. You can get the apps from your app store and you can link them to your web account, okay? All right, questions. I welcome questions. If you have some and you're not sure, send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com and admin@aehelp.com. Either one of those emails get to us and I can give you a nice response. Chen, welcome. Excuse me. Chen, welcome back to our membership. That's great to have you on board. All right. By the way, I'm feeling great now. So that sneeze was just me waking up at 5:40 in the morning. All right. Thank you, Carolina. Our streaming schedules. So we've got this Task 1 class right now, as I mentioned at the beginning. We've got a Task 2 writing class after for subscribers. So definitely subscribe to this channel. You've got a lot of great information that will come to you through your phone, through notifications. So hit that bell button. We have Speaking Part 2, Speaking Part 3, practice and strategy tomorrow. We're maybe the only YouTube channel where you actually get to speak during those classes with me, with an actual examiner. And check out this video that will help you with your speaking. We just released it not long ago. I'll put that in the chat. There you go. All right. So again, before you start writing your Task 1, make sure that you're clear that you know what the Task 1 graph is for the academic and what the purpose is. So for line graphs, what is the purpose of a line graph? Before we look at this question, can anybody tell me what is the purpose, the utility of a line graph? So let me ask it for you this way. For what kind of data do we use a line graph? Okay. Who knows the answer to that? So what kind of data is plural, what kind of data? So Joao says to show the changes of something over a given time span. Often it is, Joao, you're right. Often it's a time span. Let me look at the graph for today. Okay, so this is the graph that we're working with. And it's good to look at the graphs before you get too far. Okay, a lot of people don't. They kind of just jump around. So here we're looking at regional household recycling rates. What is this line called? Anybody know? It has this 0%, 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%. Now you're going to hear some new vocabulary potentially right now, so make sure to write it down. Okay. Very good, Joao. It's called the y-axis. Yes, it is. So it's the y-axis. Plural, if you want to know, it's called axes. Okay. So, but this is the y-axis. All right. Good. What is this line called? I'm sure you all know the answer to this. I hope so. I hope they teach this in your high school curriculum. They should. So the vertical line is the y-axis. The horizontal line is the x-axis. Very good. Okay. Actually, you won't see it if I write it there. So it's x-axis. Yes, absolutely. So y-axis and x-axis. Okay. The questions will get more and more challenging here. So here we have percents of regional household recycling rates, right? So these are the percents of the regional household recycling rates, and these are the years. Okay, in statistics or in graphs, what do we call these? So what do we call the regional household recycling rates and the years? What is that referred to as? We refer to those as starts with a V. And for people who are not familiar with this vocabulary in English, definitely write it down. It's not the correlation. We're not there yet, Joao. So what do we call those years and what do we call those regional household recycling rates? It starts with a V, the word that I'm looking for. The next letter there is an A. Same, by the way, with the countries. So the countries also share this term in statistics. They're just a little bit different if we add an adjective. But when you look at the countries here, of course, it's another piece here. It's not variation, Raquaya. It's an important word to add to your vocabulary. Absolutely, a very important word. Not just for IELTS, but for your university work as well. That's right, Joao, they're called variables. Okay, so they're called variables. Okay, So they're your variables. And UK, France, Germany is also, okay? The only difference between the regional household recycling rates and the years and the names of the countries here, okay, is these two here are called independent variables, and the countries are the dependent variables. That's because the countries don't change, they remain the same, but the percents and the years change for each country, so they're the independent variables, okay? So those are some important words. So make sure to learn these words and write down the definition, okay? So let me just make a vocabulary list for you that's important for line graphs. Okay, so far we've had y-axis, we've had x-axis, let's just make it as a list. X-axis, we don't need those as big. They're common nouns. Okay. So y-axis, x-axis, independent variables, and dependent variable. Okay. So remember that vocabulary. It's important. All right. Okay. And then there's different types of data. Okay, there's 4 types of data. Anybody know what the 4 types of data are in statistics and in graphs? It's, again, some more important vocabulary to understand for task 1, for pie charts, line graphs. So there are 4 types of data. Okay. Good try, Joao. Not quite. So let me give you a little bit. Okay, there's nominal, basically name data. Okay, there's interval, which means the distance between measures are equal. Before interval, I should introduce to you ordinal. Okay, the data is in a sequence. And then the 4th type, and again, like I say, this is common knowledge to many high school graduates in many English-speaking countries. So the 4th one is what's called ratio. Okay, so that means distance between measures is equal with a true zero. Or they also call it an absolute zero. All right, where there's an absence of the measure. But I'm not going to get into really deep statistics or graph analysis. You don't need that for Band 9 on the IELTS exam, but you should learn this for university, especially if you're going into a science major. Okay, anybody going into science majors should be clearly aware of these. All right, so 4 types of data. There's nominal, all right, there's ordinal, and there's interval, and there's ratio. And if you're thinking, do I really need to know this for the IELTS? Yeah, you do. You need a basic understanding of graphs and charts. You can't just wing it. One of the big problems with a lot of candidates who sit the academic IELTS is they don't actually understand how to analyze and how to interpret graphs and charts, and they think that you can just learn it from an English teacher in an English class who also doesn't know how to analyze graphs and charts sometimes, and then they just wing it. They use like template words and template sentences. The problem with using template sentences, keep this in mind, is you can only get a Band 7 if you write a perfect essay with no mistakes, which is almost impossible. Okay, it's very hard even for somebody who is very good at writing. Okay, so if you want to get a Band 7, 7, 5, 8 in the writing, then you have to understand graphs. You have to understand what a graph is, what it's used for, what are the different terms and vocabulary associated with the graph, okay? And that's what I'm showing you. Does that make sense, everybody? So you can't just write about a graph without really understanding it. It's almost silly, if you will. It's like you're trying to teach somebody swimming without actually knowing how to swim, right? Or trying to explain to somebody how to swim without really knowing how to swim. It's silly, right? You have to know how to swim to teach someone. I sure would not want somebody to teach me swimming if they don't know how to swim, okay? All right, does that make sense, members? So you have to understand graphs and charts at the basic level, okay? All right, so here, going back to this piece, Fong, thank you. Fong's like, yes. And I know it's, it's a bit scary at first, and, it may be like, oh, really? I have to learn a bit of math or statistics? Yeah, it is. That's just the way it is. The professor does not want to teach you that when you arrive in university in an English-speaking country. They expect you to know that, okay? So if we look at a line graph, then you'll notice in the line graph that indeed you have this here. These are percents, right? So let me switch away from this really dark black here. So you notice that these are percents, all right? So percents are generally ratio data, okay? There is an absolute zero where there's just nothing going on. So percents are usually considered a ratio data, okay? Because 0% means it does not exist, all right? And then years are considered interval. Okay, now if you look at a line graph, basically what's happening is the line, so this line here, and this line here, and this line here, they're showing the relationship between the two data points, okay? So the two data. They're showing the relationship between the percent or the amount and the years, okay? And that's what Joao identified correctly as the correlation. So that's called a correlation, okay? So the purpose of line graphs, if anybody asks you in the future, the purpose of a line graph, okay, so here we have this question, for what kind of data do we use line graph, okay? So line graphs are used to show the correlation of nominal data according to interval and ratio variables. Okay, so what is the nominal data, you ask me? The nominal data are the countries. Okay, so you see here the countries are UK, France, and Germany. Okay. By the way, you might be thinking, how does Adrian know this? So what? I thought Adrian was an English teacher. Yeah, that's true. My degree is in psychology, and psychology is full of charts and graphs. If you take a lot of social sciences like sociology, psychology, political science, there are a lot of lines and graphs. Okay, there's classes in statistical psychology. So you have to understand this. So this is the name data, okay? Humans give a country a name, okay? It's arbitrary, it's made up. Okay, we make it up. As funny as that sounds, countries don't actually exist. We draw a line on a map and we say, that's Canada. And everybody's like, okay, it's Canada, right? But dinosaurs didn't have Canada. They weren't like, hey, you can't go there, Tyrannosaurus Rex, that's Canada. Birds still don't have countries. They just fly wherever they want, right? So that's just name data. We give it names, okay? It's nominal data. It's the weakest form of data. So UK, France, Germany, these are names. And to measure what people are doing in these countries with recycling, we put these, in this case, on a line graph of percents and years. So we check the correlation between the years and the amount measured in percent, okay, for these countries, okay? Joao says, but these graphs are fictitious, right, sir? Does IELTS get them from reliable sources? They are actually real information a lot of the time. So not every graph is accurate, and that's just also because information changes as we find out more, but they do. And sometimes you can even see the source, like they'll name the source, like World Health Organization statistics 2021, and they'll show the source where they're getting the information from. So they're pretty close to real, if not real, Joao. So they are often real data, real information to the best of our knowledge at that time. Okay, so good question, Joao. But yes, they are often actual data. Now, of course, when you're doing work online, you see a lot of sample graphs and charts online from other companies. I don't think this one in particular comes from IELTS. This is a simpler one that comes from another source, but they're pretty accurate in many cases. So a lot of the examples out there that you see on the internet, they're quite accurate, or they're very close to. Okay. All right. So again, just to reiterate, line graphs are used to show the correlation of nominal data according to interval and ratio variables. Okay, all right. Or maybe a little bit cleaner way to write this is the line graphs are used to show the correlation between interval or ratio variables and ratio variables on some nominal data that you see in the legend. They show continuity, so change over time. And a lot of students write these words like increasing, decreasing, or fluctuating. Okay, but unfortunately, a lot of students also write those words for pie charts. So they'll write increasing, decreasing for pie charts. That's not right. Pie charts don't show change over time. They just give you a snapshot of one time period. Okay, so you need to be careful. All right, so let's get into this. You'll learn more as we do this, okay? But just do keep in mind that line graphs are used to show the correlation between interval ratio variables and some nominal data. You see that in the legend. Here it's countries, 3 countries, and then they show continuity over time. Okay, so here, your first step when you get to your task 1 is to read the question carefully. So let's do this now, okay? IELTS Task 1 writing. You should spend about 20 minutes on this task, and definitely spend 20 minutes on the task, okay? Save 40 minutes for Task 2. Task 2 is worth a lot more points, so you need to save 40 minutes for Task 2. The following chart shows the recycling rates of several European countries over a given period. Report the main features and make comparisons where relevant. You should write at least 150 words. Of course, I've said this many times that band 7 to 9 essays have more than 150 words usually, okay? Band 7.5 to 9 especially have 180 to 220 words even, okay? So keep that in mind. All right, it's at least means a minimum 150 words, but high band essays usually have more than the minimum, okay? So then you look at the line graph in your second step. So first of all, you look at the title, Regional Household Recycling Rates, okay? You look at the y-axis, it's percents from 0 to 70, not 100, 0 to 70. And then you look at the x-axis, and the x-axis in this case are the years that go from 2005 to 2015. How many years is that? It's 10 years, okay? What intervals do we have? Okay, so the interval is the distance between measures. As I mentioned, it's an interval scale. Years are an interval scale because we don't have an absolute zero. Humans imagine zero time, but we have no proof of zero time. So there's no such time as 0 years, okay? People would imagine that's before the universe started, but we don't actually have proof of that. So there's no true zero or absolute zero for years, okay? So years are interval data. And here, 2005 to 2007, 2 years, 2 years. Yeah, Raquea, that's right. It's a 2-year interval. Co-team, welcome to our group of members. Hopefully you join in on the fun, on the chat. Okay, so 2-year intervals here, all right? Over the course of a decade, right? It's 10 years, it's a decade. Using good vocabulary, good logic, you're going to get some great scores. 3 countries, all European countries, UK, France, Germany, Western European countries, in fact. So now what we can do is take the first step in the essay, okay? So write the introduction, all right? Step 1, write the introduction using the question and the information from your first look at the graph. All right, so basically you paraphrase the question, adding details from the graph. Please do this, members. I'm going to do the same. While I do it, I will remain silent so that you can start your own paraphrasing. Try not to look at the screen at my paraphrasing, so you do it all on your own. Here's the original question, okay? Add details. I'm going to do the same. All right, so there is my paraphrase with details. So here it says the following chart, okay? Well, it's not just a chart, it's a line graph, or if we want to go British, we can say line chart, okay? And then they use the word shows. I paraphrase that with the word depicts. The recycling rates, okay, the recycling rates. What are those recycling rates? They're recycling rates from 0% to 70%, okay? And it says of several European countries. Well, we learned from the graph that it's actually 3 European countries, namely UK, France, and Germany. Okay, so more details. And here it says in the original question, over a given period. Well, we can see that that's not just a given period, but it's over a decade. So I use over a decade, and then I even define it further, stating from 2005 to 2015 with 2-year intervals. Okay, that is your Band 9 introduction. It's accurate, it's clear, it's got a lot of detail. All right. Joao writes, the ensuing chart. Joao, don't write ensuing chart. It's weird, okay? The question will say the given line graph, but in your essay, don't say the given or the graph below. It's strange to refer to the location or the fact that it was given to you. You're there to explain the graph. You're not there to tell a person that it's given to you. You're not there to tell the person that it's on the page down below. I might not even be looking at the line graph. In fact, students, when the examiner is marking your essay, they're usually not looking at the line graph, and they often will not have it below. So they're just looking at your essay. So, telling them the line graph below, where's that line graph? I don't have one. The only thing that's below are my shoes. All right. So don't write the below line graph or the given line graph. Unnecessary. Okay. So instead, Joao, add the line graph. Let the examiner know that you realize that you're dealing with a line graph. Okay, so the line chart depicts the recycling rates of European countries, not such as, because it's not an example. It is those countries. Okay, Joao. So of European countries, comma, UK, France, and Germany over a decade. And then you don't need to paraphrase, describe the principal characteristics. You don't need that part. So it's not like the task 2 paraphrasing, okay? In this task 1, we're just paraphrasing the facts about the graph with more detail, okay? All right? You can give that piece the 2-year interval, okay? That's really smart. So this kind of vocabulary and analysis is fantastic for band 8-9, okay? All right, Fennel says the line graph depicts the information about recycling ratios of numerous, very nice use of ratio, Fennel, of numerous European regions. They're not regions, they're nations or countries, and not numerous, but 3, Fennel, okay? Fuang, the line graph indicates the proportion of household recycling in a number of European countries, including UK, France, and Germany in 1 decade from 2005 to 2015. Okay, good. Students, you're doing a good job. So, Rakuya, Mal, Chayani, keep writing. Chen, keep writing. I will look at your sentences as well. I can't look at everybody's each time, otherwise we'll never get through the work. So, but just keep making sure that you write more and more, and I will look at different people's at different times. Be fast, okay? Balance speed with accuracy. Very important. All right. Okay, so after the introduction, so this first bit here is the introduction. Okay. And then in the IELTS, after the introduction, they want you to write an overview. Okay. The overview should be the main information that you can see in the graph. So you go back to the graph, and then you look at the main information. All right. What is the main information that we see in this graph? Okay. What do we see here? I can right away see kind of the main information of the graph for the overview here. I'll show you what I see. Okay. Don't just look for most and least, but look for change, look for difference. So the overview, the main information is always the most observable difference. That you don't have to look at numbers. You just need to look at the lines. Okay. So here we're just looking at these lines. We're not interested in these numbers here, okay, for this overview. So what I notice right away is that UK and Germany have a consistent increase, okay, quite a consistent increase in their recycling rates. And the UK is always at the highest rate, consistently going up. It doesn't start there, but it's the highest. France, on the other hand, is interesting because France has the highest recycling rates early on, but is consistently, well, let me try that with a different color so it's more evident. It's consistently decreasing, and then finally in 2013, the trend changes to this upward swing. Okay? So, Chayani, it's not that they've sharply fallen after 2 years. If you say France has sharply fallen after 2 years, that's not the overview. That's the analysis, okay? And it's not sharply after 2 years. It's sharply from the beginning, okay? Or I wouldn't say it's sharply. Sharply, it's gradually. So Chayani, a sharp fall would be like that. That's sharp. Or a rapid increase would be like that, okay? This is more of a consistent or steady decline or a steady decrease, all right? We don't need to worry about small pieces of information like this, even not for the analysis. So let's get to this overview. So for the overview, what's most interesting is not this piece for me initially, but it's this piece between the UK and Germany. And then this is interesting that this is a contrast to those, okay? So I'm going to write this overview that I've noticed, and then we can get into the analysis, okay? So let's do it. Again, I recommend writing these sentences on your own and then comparing it to what I write, so that you can see where you might want to change your writing or your structure. Okay. I'll stay quiet during this time so you're not distracted for your writing. All right, so I'll stick with that. That's fine. Overviews don't have to be too long, 1 or 2 sentences, depending on how you join them or what kind of connectives you use. They also create the structure of your essay. So whatever you write about first in the essay, you write first in, or sorry, whatever you write first in the overview, you write first in the analysis. So clearly here, I'm going to write about the UK and Germany and then France in my essay. Okay. All right. Fennel says, at first instance, it is clear that the UK and Germany has a clear spike in recycling rates. Yeah, okay, Fennel, spike, I'll take it. Whereas France seems to have a rapid drop from 2005 to 2012. It's more of a steady decline than a rapid drop, but okay. Raquea says, at first glance, UK and Germany are going up in recycling rates. Raquea, don't forget the subject, the title of the line graph, recycling rates, going up in recycling rates. But France, country is always a capital letter, big F, Raquea. They will dock you a mark if you write the countries with small letters. But France goes down in recycling rates until 2013, and then it increases. Don't just use going up, going down. That's quite simple language. You want to use increase, decrease, decline, incline. So there are lots of synonyms for going up, going down. Okay. Eldho writes, in general, good. In general, while UK and Germany shows an upward trend, France decreased gradually and changed only after 2013. Yes, good, Eldho. A little bit of correction there. I'm verbally correcting you. You can always check the recording of this class on YouTube to hear your correction again. The best trick is to write down the time. So Eldho, you'd write down something like 41 minutes, and then you know that around that time is your correction. Okay. Mal, at first glance, it can be noticed that the UK showed a sudden decrease of recycling. Mal, I don't think UK shows decreases. There's no decrease. So Mal, be very careful. UK only shows increase, a little bit of flattening there, but then an increase again. There's absolutely no depression. Okay. If you make information mistakes, students, you're going to lose marks, guaranteed. Okay. Academic IELTS, you have to be accurate not only with your English, but with your information. Information mistakes will cost you double because you're making a mistake with the language and with the information. It hurts your mark. So be very careful, Mel. Okay. So there's no decrease there, at least none that I can see. All right. Be very, very careful. All right. Chen, overall, both UK and Germany's recycling ratios gradually increase in the given period. However, France consistently fell until 2013. Then there was a slight increase afterward. Chen, we're in 2022. So when we're referring to the years, it's good to use the past tense. Make sure you're accurate. Okay, it's not is, it's was. If we were living in 2015, we might be able to use some present tense, but we're definitely not. That's almost 8 years past, right? We're coming up on New Year's soon. So, Fuang, overall, the proportion of households in the UK and Germany significantly rose in recycling rates. Fuang, careful, information mistake. It's not the households that rise, it's the household recycling rates, people recycling in their homes. Okay, so information mistakes, students, be very careful, don't have missing information. Chayani, at first sight, it is proven that the UK, we always add the USA, the UK, and Germany both increased recycling, while France went down significantly until 2013, and afterwards had a slight increase. Okay, so same mistake, Chayani, as Chen with that present instead of past tense, talking about 2013, 14, 15. Okay, careful. All right. Okay, so now for the next part, for the analysis, what we do is we identify 6, 7, 8 different data points that we can discuss. Now remember, my data points should follow the order of my overview. Okay, data points, very important. Data points follow the overview structure. So I talked about the UK and Germany first in my overview, then France. So that's what I'm going to follow in my analysis. Now, if you do it differently, it's possible. You can talk about France first and just make sure that France is the first in your overview. Does that make sense? Does everybody follow me there? So if your overview is like France at first glance, France had the highest recycling rates in 2005 and then decreased. On the other hand, UK and Germany had lower recycling rates but increased over the course of the period. Then you can start with France in your analysis. But I started with UK and Germany and then I went to France. So I'm doing it a little bit differently. So I have to do it that way. Okay, so whatever you outline, simply put your overview as your thesis. You follow that structure. In the next class, in our task 2 class coming up in a bit, you're going to see the same when we write the thesis for the task 2 essay. Okay, I can see Raquia, Chayani, everybody gets it. Okay, so I'm going to start with this. So what I'm going to do is my first point will be that. Okay, so I'm going to talk about I'm going to talk about the UK. Okay, and then my second point is going to be about Germany. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to compare Germany and the UK because they're almost parallel, or well, not quite parallel, but they show a similar type of upward trend over the course of the period. UK always a bit above Germany, but somewhat of a similar trend. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that, and then I'm going to talk about France. And when I talk about France, now this is again where we can go a little bit different. So with UK, I can actually say that UK surpassed France in around 2008, and then the finishing point, which is the end, it's 2015, and then I can do number 4 here, which is Germany, and then surpassing France around 2009, right? And then ending close to the UK in 2015. And then with France, I might do this, the 7th point where it starts, and then the 8th point again here, and then maybe a 9th point here. I have to be careful with my sentences, otherwise I'm going to be way over 150 words. Okay, all right. There's different ways to do this. You can talk about these intersecting points between these countries and France, either when you're talking about UK or Germany, or you can talk about that or write about that when you're discussing France. Okay. All right. So let me do this. Let me show you how it goes. You can do the same. You can try a different approach. So you can talk about, the UK first, and then Germany, like me, or you can do it differently. If you think, hey, I'm going to change my overview and talk about France first, you can try it that way too. I'll figure it out from what you're writing. Just make sure that you're consistent. Okay. All right. So let me get into the analysis. My first point is this one here. My second point is this intersection here. Okay. So first point is around 33%. All right. And then 2008, the surpassing France at 40%. Okay, so I'll write about those 2 points first. All right, and when you're doing your real IELTS exam, you definitely want to identify these points nice and fast before you start writing. And yes, you can do all this in 20 minutes as long as you practice at home and you're a quick thinker. Okay. Especially those of you who need those high band scores. Okay. All right. So here I go with the analysis. Okay. This is the main part of your essay. Okay. So, looking further at the data. Now notice this interpretation. The highest band essays, band 8, band 9, they don't just report the data, they interpret the data. So if you look at the UK here at 33%, 33% basically means 1 in every 3 homes in the UK recycled in 2005. Okay, so when you see nice round pieces of percentages like 50%, 50% is a half, 33% is a third, 20% for Germany here is a fifth. Okay, so use those terms because they're great. All right, examiners love seeing that interpretation. All right. So looking further at the data, 1/3 of UK homes recycled in 2005. And by 2008, the UK recycling rates surpassed France at 40%. Okay, so that sums up my first and my second point. All right, Jatinder Singh, welcome to our group of members. So my first, second point there is nicely described. Now I'm going to simply describe this point here. I'm going to group that all into one, which is 3. Okay, so it's 60%, which is fantastic. Okay. By 2015, British people, right? Because UK, United Kingdom, Great Britain, right? So we can even paraphrase the country, which is fantastic. By 2015, 60%. We can even make that better. 60% of British homes recycle, and this is the highest proportion recorded among these three countries. Okay? Not between, among. Between is only for two countries or two objects, two pieces. Anytime you have more than two pieces, it's among. So always pay attention. Among these three countries. Co-team says UK and Germany showed a parallel. It's not quite parallel, co-team. It's a similar increasing rate from 2005 to 2007, with the UK as a stagnant line between 2007 and 9. It doesn't matter, co-team. That's just too small detail. So the stagnant or level line, unnecessary detail. We've got a lot more interesting information. Remember, the question says report the main features. Students, this line here is not a main feature. Okay, for a 200-word essay, that's not a main feature. The main feature is surpassing France there. That's a main feature, or surpassing France here. But these slight modulations, no, doesn't matter. Okay, we're not interested in that. Okay, so similarities and differences. Right now I'm writing about Germany. So Germany followed a similar pattern as the UK with slightly lower rates, right? So similarly, Germany followed a similar pattern of recycling as the UK with slightly lower rates over the decade, over the course of the decade. Only a fifth or 1/5 of German homes recycled in 2005, but this number gradually, or consists steadily, it's not gradual, steadily increased, surpassing or exceeding, if I want to paraphrase surpassing, exceeding France, and you can kind of see that now beside me, potentially, exceeding France in, here, let me go up a bit here, you'll see it better, exceeding France in 2010, I would say, as a second look, exceeding France in 2010 at 38%, at roughly means approximately, about, okay, roughly 38%. And finishing almost as high as Britain at 57%, at approximately 57% in 2015. Okay, so I've now written this entire German line here, okay, and very quickly explained, or very clearly explained to the reader, to the examiner, that it's similar to the UK. It's not the same, it's not parallel, but it's similar, and that it started at 1/5, rose and exceeded France in 2010 at 38, and then eventually finished at about 58%, very close to the UK. Okay? All right. Okay, now I have one more piece, of course, which is France. On the other hand, France had the highest recycling ratio with half of the French homes recycling. And now, Joao, you're probably right. If I had to guess, I would say this is false information. I don't think France or French homes decreased in recycling, but who knows? Okay. So with half of the French homes recycling in 2005, but this steadily dropped to just 30% by 2013, at which time there was a sudden increase of 10% over the course of the next 2 years. Okay? And then if I want to be really clever, I don't need to write this as a separate paragraph, just include it at the end. I can write a brief summary of the data, and it's not a conclusion. It's just a one-line summary. It's factual. I don't assume. I don't infer. I don't say for some strange reason French people didn't recycle. I don't know why that was. I don't write about it. All I do is just a simple summary. So in summary, okay, UK and Germany had increased recycling consistently, while in France there was variation. There, I'm not even going to take it any further than that. So that's all I do, students, and I hope that you were able to follow with me. What I recommend is try to write this at home, but instead of writing it the same way that I did, because there's more than one way to get a band 8 or a band 9, okay? This isn't the only structure or the only way to write this as a band 9 essay, of course, right? So what I challenge you to do for homework is this. Write this task 1 with a different structure, where you start with France and finish with UK and Germany. Okay, try it that way. Yeah, Fennel, be careful. So Fennel, you're writing, to sum up, UK and Germany had greater impact on recycling. We don't know that, okay? We don't know that. We don't know who consumes more, what they recycle, who has greater impact on it. But you could say they had a more positive trend. So Fennel, you could say, to sum up, UK and Germany showed a positive recycling trend, while France showed mostly a negative trend. So you could write it like this, Fennel. To sum up, the UK and Germany had a positive recycling trend over during this decade. However, France had mostly a negative trend. Okay, you could do that, Fennel, all right? But you wouldn't want to say impact, because we don't know the impact, all right? Okay, everyone, let me just read this for you, and you should hear this Band 9 essay, okay? So here we go. This line chart depicts the recycling rates from 0 to 70% for 3 European countries, UK, France, and Germany, over a decade from 2005 to 2015 with 2-year intervals. At first glance, it is clear that the UK and Germany consistently increased recycling rates over the course of this decade, while France had the highest rates in 2005 and then steadily decreased until 2013, at which time there is a sudden increase. There was a sudden increase for the last 2 years. Make those corrections with the tenses. Looking further at the data, 1/3 of UK homes recycled in 2005, and by 2008, the UK recycling rates surpassed France at 40%. By 2015, 60% of British homes recycled, and this was the highest proportion recorded among these three countries. Similarly, Germany followed a similar pattern of... okay, I don't like the similar, okay? Similarly, Germany followed a... as well. Let's change this first one. Germany followed a similar pattern of recycling as the UK with slightly lower rates over the course of the decade. Only 1/5 of German homes recycled in 2005, but this number steadily increased, exceeding France in 2010 at roughly 38%, and finished almost as high as Britain at approximately 57% in 2015. On the other hand, France had the highest recycling ratio, with half of the French homes recycling in 2005, but this steadily dropped to just 30% by 2013, at which time there was a sudden increase of 10% over the course of the next 2 years. In summary, UK and Germany had increased recycling consistently, while in France there was variation. Okay, so that's the essay. This is why we review, so we can correct mistakes like tense mistakes, and then you'll get a great score for your task 1 essay. Chen writes, therefore the UK and Germany had a gradual upward trend while it was the inverse for France over time. Very nice, Chen. I like it. I like that summary as well. That's a good summary. Okay, students, practice your task 1, and very importantly, understand the differences between line graphs, pie charts, tables. You don't write about them the same. If you're taking classes and they're showing you one way to write about all charts and graphs, that's wrong, okay? You should have different vocabulary, different structure for different kinds of graphs and charts for those high band scores. I'm going to be back in about 50 minutes with task 2 writing. That's going to be a subscribers chat class. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, okay? Again, for everybody who's joining in, be sure to visit the websites aehelp.com for academic IELTS. We'll show you all the different kinds of graphs and charts and how to write correctly. And for general IELTS students, check out gieltshelp.com, okay? Those are basically the textbooks for these live classes. It's a one-time payment. You get lifetime access. It's very much worth it. Fennel, thank you so much for your super chat donation. You're awesome. And I wish you all the best with your exam tomorrow. I'll keep my fingers crossed, okay? Do your best. Be brave. Just remember, you can't learn more English in 10 hours, so take a good rest and be yourself. Be confident, okay? All right. Mal, yeah, you can send the homework to the email. I'll look out for it, okay? All right, everyone. I hope to see you in the next class. Until then, check out the websites, have a cup of tea, get energized, and I look forward to teaching you more about Task 2. See you in a bit. I'm Adrian. I'm signing out from Victoria, Canada for now. Bye.